Hey guys, welcome back to Brothers of the Trident. Today we will be doing a short rant about historical topics on our mind.
I go to a rather small middle school, and one day I happened to have finished my work early, so I was given the green light to watch some historical films, which I love doing, by myself. Now, one of my classmates overheard the film and saw me, and at this point in the film was Glory, of course, at this point, the 54th were attacking Fort Wrangler, and they were moving forward in such a dense block, and my classmates were puzzled as to why they would expose such a large target to artillery and rifle fire. And I would like to deliver four relatively concise points about why they would do that. I will be covering the Napoleonic Wars up to about the 1900s, but I don't want to stray too far from that. But these points can be used as an umbrella term for all. My first point I would like to make is order and discipline. It is very hard to move troops forward in a thin line of men. It is very easy to move freshly trained troops down a stretch of land if they are all together marching in the same pace. In the Napoleonic Wars, it was very hard for troops to walk across the battle-ridden land. It was very hard to keep a line in perfect order, especially for well-disciplined and veteran troops. It was very hard to do this on anything but perfect parade grounds. It was much easier for troops to walk across any type of ground in a column. You also have to take into account that if you want to get every man in the regiment or the battalion to move forward to do their bit, they don't have modern radios at this time. They don't have synchronized watches, not until the Crimean War at least. So officers would have to relay their orders using fifers, buglers, or drummers. And this becomes hard to do when you're in the middle of a battle, having to talk to having hundreds of men to hear this, and it's near impossible amidst the chaos of battle with all the explosions, loud gunpowder, and smoke. At the Battle of Waterloo, when the French attack columns marched forward to attack the British, they were struck with muddy ground as they were trying to form into line, which offered superior firepower as you could get every man firing. Now that is one of the weaknesses of forming up in column, is that you can't have every man to fire. However, it is quite well a risk and a drawback that people are willing to overlook because column offers so many positives to it. The French columns are moving forward, and their formation soon became a mob of men because of all the mud on the battlefield. And this mob of men was broken up, and it was very susceptible to cavalry, will be my second point: vulnerability to cavalry. A line drawn out in 2 to 3 men deep will be perfect target for a cavalry charge. It does not have enough weight to resist the impact of the charge and will be brushed aside with mere ease. The only way to resist a cavalry charge is if the soldiers find unity in one another and form up in dense ranks, bayonets fixed, ready to resist the charge, scaring off the horses with their wall of bayonets. And one of these tactics would have been to form your map in a square, its flanks protected on all sides. This still is a dense infantry formation and made a great target for artillery, which is kind of a deadly rock, paper, scissors game in the Napoleonic Wars. At the Battle of Waterloo, I believe that it was the 69th Regiment that was stationed near a woods and a series of rolling hills. Kellerman's cuirassier, which was 700 cuirassier at the time, charged through these rolling hills and surprised the 69th Regiment formed up in line. They were annihilated, and many of them were driven into the woods. This is just one of the devastating impacts of cavalry on the Napoleonic Wars. It was still the hammer of many armies, and the eyes and ears of all. My third point that I would like to make is morale during a battle. Soldiers are more likely to advance into torrential enemy gunfire if they are next to their comrades, being cheered on by the man in front of them, beside them, and behind them. They are more likely to hold the line against overwhelming enemy force if they know that they're defending the flank of their comrade. This was taken into account with the Spartan shield wall or phalanx. Same thing with the Macedonian pike wall or the Spanish tercio. This offers greater morale in battle, and soldiers were much more likely to do their bit. Now, I know I love my good old-fashioned historical video game, and many of you out there who play Napoleon Total War know that there's a mod for Napoleon Total War 3, in which, if you form your men up into dense infantry columns, it made the movement of the unit faster, and it also increased the morale during battle. However, it exposed them to gunfire from muskets and from artillery. This is a very good representation of the Napoleonic times, and I highly suggest that you check out the mod and the game Napoleon Total War and the mod Napoleon Total War 3. Now, as I had previously stated, one of the drawbacks of forming up into line was your vulnerability to artillery. Not to mention, you could only answer with about a third of your strength in terms of musket fire. The British, at the Battle of Waterloo, formed their men up into extremely thin ranks, often 2 ranks deep, 2 men deep in other words, and they were able to have every man in the battalion firing at the French. The French were only able to answer back with the first 3 ranks of their column, formed up into about 5 or 6 men wide or across. But no one ever goes into a gunfight formed up in column. The French infantry were well disciplined and well trained, and they would form up into line to answer back. However, the mud on the battlefield had slowed their movements down and turned them into a mob, and they were able to be ridden down by the British heavy cavalry. I would like to sum up the points that I have made with my 4th and final point on why infantry began to spread out more. Modern rifles made standing in such a dense formation near suicide. Machine guns and long-range artillery could pinpoint and accurately kill thousands of men if they were used correctly. Now, an additional tidbit that I forgot to include was Napoleonic muskets were notoriously inaccurate, and the only way to deal long-standing psychological and physical damage to the enemy was if you grouped up a large cluster of men and fired all at once. Now, line formation allowed every man to fire, so you could do more physical damage, but column, forming up in dense ranks, could do long-standing psychological damage. At the Battle of Waterloo, some Dutch units were said and supposed to have fled from the infantry columns of the French, formed up so densely that it seemed like a mere wave of men, all stuck on killing the enemy. Now, the French had done this on a multitude of times, from the Battle of Aspern and Essling to Wagram. The French infantry columns were able to overwhelm the hastily trained Austrian conscripts, and they would do the same at the Battle of Waterloo up to a point until they were met and checked by the disciplined gunfire of the British Redcoats.
Thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and also please feel free to give us some feedback. If you discover any amazing facts, just comment down below. Anyway, with that, have a good day. We'll see you next time.